So I'm doing a discussion for my private clients about how you need to fuel correctly for your golf rounds. So that's going to be super important. What I'm going to do is talk about a study that was published very recently. So if you want to look it up, it is called High Carbohydrate Energy Intake During a Round of Golf Maintained Blood Glucose Levels. So type that into Google, you'll find it there. And shout out to the researchers. This is a Japanese-based study that was published in 2024 October, so it's very recent. Excuse my internet connection there. So it's very recent. There's a lot of good information from this, and in my opinion, a lot of golfers don't get enough in terms of nutrients in a round. Quite often what I see is people will start playing. From there, they'll almost forget about nutrition. You'll go hungry, and then from there, you can start to lapse in terms of your concentration, your performance, etc. And in a round of golf, give or take, you're probably going to burn 500 to 3,000 calories, and this is a huge range because some people are walking, some people are in a cart, some people are playing in a hilly course. It's going to be different weather conditions. But what I'd really encourage you to do is use some sort of fitness tracker, whether it's a watch, whether it is a Whoop band, some other fitness tool to track your calories. It's very interesting. I used to track my energy consumption during a round of golf, and it was anywhere between 3,000 and 4,000 calories. So that's a huge amount of energy that you're burning. So you want to make sure that you're fueling along the way so that your concentration is at a peak. And for those that are joining, I'm discussing how you can avoid the back nine slump by correct energy intakes. And this study is very interesting, so make sure you stick around because I'm going to discuss exactly what you should have throughout the rounds, how often you should have it, and why this is important for you. So this study in particular, so again, Japanese-based study, was published in October last year. So very recent, very up to date, and I love the way they structured this study as well. So in this study, they had three groups of golfers. So they broke them up into three segments, and from there, they had a certain number of carbohydrates they're going to give them. So group one had 250 grams of carbohydrates, and this is high glycemic index. What does that mean? It means that these carbohydrates are easily digested. So think about like lollies, think about chocolate bars, things like that. The second group had low GI carbs, so low glycemic index. This means it takes the body longer to break down these carbohydrates. So when you're thinking about that, you can think about rice, different grains, wholemeal bread, bananas, things like that. And then thirdly, they had a lower carb group. So this was 175 grams of carbs, low GI. So what they did throughout the round of golf, they got these athletes to have these carbs hourly. So the amount of carbohydrates they had was either 45 grams if they were in the high carb group per hour, and the second group would have 30 grams of carbs per hour. So you're probably thinking 30 grams an hour, that's pretty high, and damn right it is. Even for me, like someone that's keeping on top of energy expenditure throughout a round, this is a certainly high amount. This is what a lot of athletes will do in endurance events. So it's really cool to see this research coming through. So if you're going to equate that into a food, for example, a banana would be roughly 25 grams of carbohydrates. So this is essentially like having 5 bananas a round if you're taking 5 hours to finish a round, that is. And again, if you're just joining me, I'm discussing a study how increasing your carbohydrate intake is going to decrease the chances of fatigue throughout the round, and you're going to avoid your back nine slump, because I know how hard it is to close out a good round when you're tired, you're not focused, you're a bit anxious, and all those other symptoms of poor hydration, nutrition. So what they noticed in these groups, So the lower carbohydrate group, they had higher fatigue. They also had poorer concentration compared to the high carbohydrate group. Pardon me. So what does this mean for you? So if you're listening to this, first thing is first, make sure you're increasing your carbohydrate intake. And as a rule of thumb, I'd probably go with that 45 grams and just see how it goes. So it's going to be a lot, and make sure you can try and get it in. I know this group in particular, in this study, they used gummies. So they used either low GI gummies, so again, this is absorbed slower, the sugars, and they also used high GI as well. So that's much easier to digest than bananas or breads, etc. Because you're going to feel obviously quite full. I use energy supplements like this throughout my round. So an energy supplement like this, 100 calories, 30 grams of carbs. So it's pretty much straight sugar. But in saying that, it's a great energy kick. I take this typically at the 7th, 8th hole, and I'll take one in the back 9 typically as well. And I find that really just boosts my energy up. I become a lot more alert, and I feel like my golf is certainly improved by doing that, especially where I live. It's hot. I play at a very hilly golf course as well, so I'm constantly going up and down with these hills, and I'm pushing a buggy, so it's certainly something that you should be doing. I'm going to answer a couple of questions coming through the feed here as well for those that are tuning in. So I saw Jack ask a question. Jack Wright, hope you're going well, mate. Looking forward to seeing you soon. 45 grams over a round? No, mate, we're talking 45 grams per hour. So it's a fair chunk of carbs. And that's just this latest research that we're seeing from a Japanese study. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat below there, and I'll be happy to answer them. And again, there's another study that this study commented on as well. So when they publish research, they'll look at other studies that are similar in their field. So this one here by Stevenson et al. So they discussed 0.64 grams per kilo of body mass, and they did this prior to the round at 6 holes and at 12 holes. So to keep this simple, if you weigh 100 kilos, that's having 64 grams before you play, 64 grams of carbs at hole 6, and 64 grams at hole 12. So let's say roughly 192 grams of carbs before, during the round in total. So what they found with this study is that their motor performance improved when they looked at 2 and 5 meter putts, and also cognitive performance improved, which is self-reported. So these players basically said, I felt sharper, I felt like I could relate better to obviously my mental energy. So these are super important things to note. When it comes to you listening to this at home or listening to this live, as some of you may be, I think you're just going to need to increase your carbs. I don't know many players that I've played with or that I've watched that are eating enough or anywhere near this amount. And going to the halfway house and eating a huge snack probably isn't going to cut it as well. What's really important when it comes to us consuming calories throughout a round, we want to make sure it's consistent. What will happen is if you have a huge burst of energy, let's say you get to hole 9, you're likely to have this big spike in your blood glucose or in your insulin. And what that can do, that can make you unsettled. And from there, you can start to find some negative performance effects. So we want to make sure that we're taking small amounts of food often so that we are maintaining our hunger, so we're not starving throughout the round, and that at the same time, we're not getting full. So my suggestion to you would be pack in some energy gels, pack in bananas, my favorite. Make sure they're not too ripe, otherwise they might squish in your bag. But these are super important when it comes to improving your performance. So they're the key takeaways. Hope you enjoy this. For my private clients, leave a message in our main chat and we'll talk about it further. Hope you got some value from that. And thank you everyone for joining on the live streams. I hope you have a fantastic day.